Time for an update video on a common question I get a lot about muscle imbalances. People asking me all the time, I notice like one arm or one side is bigger or stronger than the other. What can I do about this? And the fact is, it may not be as much of a problem or any problem at all that needs to even be addressed in the first place. See, the human body isn't designed to be perfectly balanced and ambidextrous. Even our organs are kind of a little bit wonky on one side versus the other. So, in a way, you could almost make the argument that it's natural even to feel like you're a little on one side versus the other as far as your strength, stability, and balance. So muscle imbalances are, you could argue, a very natural and almost unavoidable component of strength training. So it's not something necessary you need to worry about because it's always going to be there. But that also doesn't mean they're not something you should address. And one of the best ways to address seemingly imbalances isn't to do anything more different or extra, but to just look at differences between your right and left side or one arm versus the other with your normal training. So if you're doing push-ups, for example, on rings, or in this case, my trings, and you notice, oh, my left shoulder's creeping up a little more than the other, or one elbow wings out a touch more. That can be what's causing those imbalances. So just getting a little more balanced in how you do your basic bilateral exercises may be all that's necessary. Unilateral training can also be a treasure trove of information when you dominantly use one side at a time or exclusively one side, and that gives you a comparative feel for this is how my left side feels versus my right side, and again paying attention to where's my shoulder, where's my arm, am I using my muscles in the same way? So it's a back and forth way to assess, am I doing something different with the quote weaker side versus the stronger side, and then trying to minimize that difference. A lot of times an imbalance isn't from so much a weakness, but a lack of the ability to engage certain muscles. So isometrics is a good way to address that, because if I do a single arm row on my right side, I'm like, yep, good, lats are engaged, biceps, rear delt, good. And then I go to the other side, I'm like, I'm not feeling my lats at all. Then practicing this can improve that neuromuscular connection, that mind-muscle connection, to get those muscles engaged. And once they're engaged in a balanced way, then they'll naturally balance themselves out with your normal training and exercises. But for the most part, muscle imbalances aren't really going to be that problematic as far as injury or lack of performance and so forth, unless you're going for a really high elite level. So a lot of the fear mongering you find out there online of like, oh, you don't want any sort of imbalances is both impractical and usually just not something you need to worry about. But if you do suspect that something is very problematic, I recommend getting it checked out in person by like a chiropractor or physical therapist to address the problem as directly as possible. So hopefully that gives you something to think about and work on in your next workouts. Let me know if you have questions down below. Be fit and live free.